Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question that we got in, and that is the experience of depersonalization, the feeling of being lost or disconnected from yourself, feeling that you're not really living a life, that you're really kind of almost having an outer body experience, and how this is connected to trauma bond and how it's connected to malignant narcissist or psychopathic individuals who might be close to you in your life, your workplace, or your community. And before we get started on the topic, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel, particularly my viewers in the UK, United Kingdom. We have some wonderful viewers in that area who have been very generous with their donations as of recent. I want to give a huge shout out to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your viewership and love you so much. Thank you for your input and your contribution. It keeps the channel here alive, and it keeps me inspired to create content here that can assist you. And speaking of that, I know that oftentimes in different areas there's very little access to healthcare and identification and tools with really working through some of these very sensitive topics. So it's my pleasure to really help and be supportive and give you some tools that you can use and apply right away to get results right away. Because here at Peace and Harmony, we are all about the results. It's very important that we keep that in focus. And so I also want to, with great urgency, I want to address this viewer question about the experience of depersonalization. Really kind of feeling like an outer body experience when they're with this person, that they're not valuable, that they're shame-based, that they really can't, be themselves. They have to keep a tight lip. They have to, follow in their footsteps. They're not allowed to really kind of have their own senses about them. They might even have kind of like an outer body experience where, things don't really feel real. They don't feel connected to reality. They don't feel connected to their senses. Maybe they haven't been touched. They haven't been given affection. They haven't been giving love. And, the skin is the largest organ of the human body. And, by, Maslow's needs and by a lot of studies that have been done in psychology, people need to be touched. It sends an energetic vibration through the body. It's a very nurturing sort of affirmation to the emotional body. And we need that, as much as we need food, as much as we need air, as much as we need sunshine, this is very important to the emotional body and it being energized, it's being in a generative state versus a degenerative and disease state. And so if you are not being, through your senses, if you are not being validated, attended to, you're being treated like you're invisible, you're being ignored, or you're not given the information that you need, especially in covert, malignant, narcissist households. Oftentimes there's an abuse by withholding of information, and governments. From my knowledge, and we're not here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about specifics in your life. But oftentimes, political regimes and governments are really, the purveyors of withholding information. They won't give information to their masses as a way of, not empowering them or etc. So you really do have to understand that oftentimes there's this depersonalization or, a lack of empowerment or a lack of being sensitized to life in general. And this includes all of your senses through, somebody speaking to you. You're a wonderful child. You're a wonderful daughter. You're a wonderful son. You're such a great mother. You're a wonderful wife. You're a wonderful father. You've been such a great provider. You've been such a great nurturer. You've had such a great heart of gold. All these different things that you need, even if you just hear it, the once, it'll set everything right again. You'll begin to feel okay. You'll begin to feel a sense of belonging. But nowadays, in this information age, people are so caught up and so self-absorbed that they oftentimes, forget to do that, won't do that. There's a replacement of humanity or just human acknowledgement. People, you can't barely get a hug without someone having a phone in their hand. You can't, attend a family gathering or a work function without everybody kind of being focused on their phone. So you have to kind of look at, not only this might have been set up in your life, decades ago, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, 70s, and beyond, this might be an ongoing sense of pain. So if you're experiencing the situation of ongoing chronic social anxiety, or feeling like you can't go places without crying, you're at church and you're crying, or this can be, because you feel a spiritual awakening. So this can be a beautiful thing. But if it's out of shame, where you can't feel present without feeling okay, without feeling safe, without feeling secure, without feel like there's lurking judgment around the corner, this depersonalization, oftentimes it's very helpful to identify the cause is that it's because in your senses you have not received this at some point in the game of life. And so this then sets up a ripple effect in your life where you then begin to vocalize to yourself, that you're not good enough, you're ugly, you're not a good daughter, you're not the favorite, you're not the this, you're not the that. It's the I'm not, and then it becomes then embedded into the feeling state where your feeling then follows your self-talk, whether this is conscious to you or not. It's very important to become aware that there is this subconscious, which controls and directs 95% of your body, your emotions, your verbalizations, your feelings, etc. The conscious mind only really makes up 5%. So as you can see, the subconscious mind is very powerful. And so that's why we say, actions speak louder than words. So it's very important to realize that a lot of this is kind of embedded and ingrained in your subconscious, and then creates, the automatic system, which creates your moods, which ongoing becomes, a temperament, which becomes an identity and a personality. So as you can see, the growth of the personality could have its roots in this shame-based or this depersonalized space where you weren't validated, you weren't given the attention, the affection, the guidance, the soft voice, the soft expressions. That foundation might not be within you, and so you're experiencing this depersonalization. Because a malignant narcissist or a psychopath has a pathological sense of self-importance or self-absorption, and coupled with that lack of empathy, they're just going to skirt over it. They're just not going to be able to kind of enact that in your relationship. So the number one, the healing tool for you today is, if you have experienced this deficit, is to realize now that the healing resides in your hands. The health is going to reside in your hands. You need to adopt this nurturing role for yourself in your life right now. And right now, I mean right now. If you put this off for days, weeks, months, and years, then your life is going to kind of go into that rut, and it's going to stay there in that black state until you enact that ability within yourself, which is the self-validation, self-compassion, and, forgiveness, of what had occurred, and just really let it go. And this will, oftentimes take a progression of some time, but you can do it, and then begin to resensitize yourself, begin to utilize, vocalizations to yourself, visualizations to yourself. In other words, realize that you now are, have the responsibility and the ability, which you might have underestimated within yourself. You have the ability to then surround yourself with the images, the sounds, the experiences, the touches, the validation, the tastes, all your senses, including, your spiritual sense, which is your heightened sense. You now have the ability, and don't underestimate your ability, to provide yourself that validation and that confirmation and that comfort and security that was missing in your life. So I want you to begin to give yourself this and realize that you have a gift. If you're identifying this, it's because you have, you have basically the keeper's manual. You have the treasure map. You have, the calligraphy. You have the ink within you to now, get out that big piece of paper, that curly piece of paper, spread it out, and then, chart your course, begin your journey, as they say, your feeling, your validation. Begin to give it to yourself and begin to kind of use the affirmations. A lot of people say, well, I don't know, I don't have self-talk. Well, you might identify it as negative self-talk. My life sucks, my family this, my community, my income, my job, you might have a lot of this negative vibration energy sort of embedded. So number one is to get that out of your consciousness, your subconsciousness, get that out. And oftentimes it becomes with a listening state and a be state, just becoming aware, which is, getting into really the higher consciousness, the evolution part of your mind, which once again, do not underestimate your ability to remove this negativity and toxicity from your life, which has resulted into this feeling of being lost or depersonalized, being scared, being terrorized. Realize that, that's the cause that has created the effect. And now as you get these out, very much like a garden, yank it out. Begin to become aware of, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what I want. I'm eating terribly, but I can't help myself. I'm overspending and I can't do anything about it. These sort of negative effects that have been put into place, begin to put the brakes on and begin to give some identification for yourself to these moments. As I say, it's a Coca-Cola moment where, you might always feel lost or always feel insecure or always feel like you can't speak up or always feel like your opinion doesn't matter or that you can't go for that job, the self-limiting beliefs. Begin to identify that and go, okay, I'm having a Coca-Cola moment. This is the always situation that leads me to the rut. I'm going to grab that, and instead I'm going to now go for a flow moment. I'm going to identify it and say, okay, this is where I always, go off the deep end. This is where I always feel insecure. This is where I always feel lost. This is a Coca-Cola moment, and I'm now begin to enact and really sort of, when I say enact, I mean call forth, a feeling of security or a feeling of vision or a feeling of want. And even if it's just a feeling of peace, that is enough, because if, that is kind of your step. And it's, even if it's baby steps, at least you're knowing you're going in the right direction and away from this fear feeling, depersonalized, this I don't know what I want, sort of feeling state, which is undefined. It's an undefined state. You haven't really kind of, put the crafter's tools, if you will, to the silly putty, to the clay. So now you become in a wonderful space where you just begin to allow yourself to be. And even just being mindful, just allowing yourself to listen and saying, okay, I got it. That's the Coca-Cola moment. And now reaffirming what it is that you are, and that what you want. And even if it begins with a very soft self-talk, it's very gentle and it's very direct, directional guiding. And it's, okay, I got this. Okay, I've got this. Begin to use some new self-confirmation, some self-compassion, oftentimes in a very soft tone of yours. Okay, I got this. Let's go. Let's move through this. And begin to act even before you feel ready. I think that's very much a key and a secret to healing, is that you need to begin to take action before you feel like you're ready. You need to be able to take action and go ahead and do it before you feel like you're good enough, you're ready, because chances are you've underestimated yourself. You are ready. You do have this. You can do this. And begin to take the next step. Even if it feels like, you're coming out of a wheelchair and you're making a step for the first time, you're beginning to get into that flow moment, or let's just call it, the pure moment of pure truth, or pure energy, or pure consciousness, or water, or flow. You're beginning to step into the river of life, or however you want to enable it, however you want to imagine it for yourself. I'm having a crystalline moment. I'm having a crystal moment. I'm having a crystal clear moment. I'm having a profitable moment. In other words, where you're being able to see the future. You're now enacting the prefrontal cortex, of your mind, where you're beginning to solve problems. And, this is a very powerful part of your mind, which you need to kind of wake up and begin the neurogenesis, beginning to use the neuroplasticity and beginning to look ahead for your future and saying, okay, well, at least I'm moving forward. And what does moving forward feel like to me? Is it taking a walk? Is it learning to cook? Is it, eating healthy? Is it beginning to have meals rather than candy? Is it beginning to go out and meet people? Is it taking a class? Is it learning, learning a school, learning a trade, learning to work with your hands in some way, or work with your heart, or volunteering, or starting a small business? What is this for you? You can define this from these moments where you're feeling depersonalized. So begin to identify that and begin to resensitize yourself. Take that action to feed your senses. And begin with it one-on-one, even if it's the image of sight, which is art. Then begin to go and look at some art books, art design, interior design, architecture. Even if it's just pictures of animals, places, or things. If it's studying antiques, find something that you're interested in. If it's sound, begin to listen to music, or something of that nature that is, sound, or even maybe it's peace and quiet. If it's touch, begin to get something comforting to yourself. A blanket, a scarf, a new piece of clothing. If it's the sense of touch, taste, begin to do something where you take power over that sense. A lot of people anesthetize their sense through sugar, drugs, alcohol, junk food, fast food. Those fast foods have addictive qualities. The high saturated fats, which are heated to a high temperature and have all the oil. Things that are the pink slime that is in the fast food, whatever it is, that can be addictive. Begin to resensitize your sense of touch, and then begin to reprogram and retrain that sense of taste, and use more the healthy plant-based pure-based foods, which are which you should try, and you now try. Just begin to pick it up. Just go to the store and pick it up. Do a U-turn if you find yourself going for the bar or the fast food, and then open your eyes and begin to just find that grocer, find that, begin to talk to people there, begin to resensitize your sense of taste. If it's, the sense of touch, or you need affection, you might need to go for that massage. You might need to study massage. You might even want to just read up on it and read about, reflexology and how important that is. I think you understand now what it is you need to do to resensitize and repersonalize yourself, so you become feeling more like a person in your authentic self, and then bubbling up will become your own inner voice, which has been repressed and muddled, or maybe disjointed or fragmented from earlier in your life. It's peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. And yes, you may also donate to the channel if this has been a resource or a sense of guidance or support that you have needed and made a difference in your life. Thank you for your viewership.